Hi, everyone. Welcome to Poet. I'm Radha Marcum, and today I have the pleasure of talking to poet Jami Macarty, author of The Long Now Conditions Permit. Before I introduce you to Jami, I'd like to invite you to become a subscriber of the Poet to Poet newsletter on Substack if you aren't already. Just go to poettopoet.substack.com and subscribe for free. In it, you'll find interviews like this one, plus helpful ideas on writing and publishing books of poetry. So again, today I'm thrilled to introduce you to Jami Macarty. Jami grew up along New Hampshire's 13-mile coast and was the first in her family to attend college. She holds degrees in writing from the University of New Hampshire and the University of Arizona. Macarty served as the executive director of the Tucson Poetry Festival from 1996 to 2005, and now teaches contemporary poetry and poetics at Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, British Columbia. She's a yoga instructor and meditation teacher and has taught internationally across Asia, Canada, Central America, Europe, and the Middle East. And she also works as an independent editor and reviewer. She's published 4 chapbooks and 2 full-length poetry collections. So Jami, welcome to Poet to Poet.
Thank you, Radha. Really good to be with you, my dear.
So I'd love to start with a question about process. You've published a number of chapbooks and other collections. Where did this particular body of work start? And was it a departure from or an extension of your previous work, or maybe a bit of both?
Yeah, probably an extension. I do think of my writing practice and process as taking place within the continuum. Uh, and in a way, a kind of very short answer is that the poems in the Long Now Conditions Permit started where the poems in the minuses, my first full-length collection, left off. I didn't know that at first, and then it occurred to me somewhere in the process of once the manuscript was all together and was seeking a publisher. um, One day on a walk, I was like, oh, this idea of, and walking in particular, the where the minuses ends is a woman walking in the world. And there's a similar figure, maybe the same figure, I'm not 100% sure, walking through the poems in the Long Now Conditions Permit. So uh, and then the process of writing these poems took place over 95 days during January 2020 and January 2021. There was a 5-day period. So that's right at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, or we weren't actually sure what we were into yet. I think the people of the world. So I was did a 5-day writing kind of retreat with, um, I think there were 8 other goddesses at that table. And then I did 3 30-day poem a day spells in July 2020, October 2020, and then January 2021. And that's where you and I met, right? Um, so not every single poem that was written during that time is in the manuscript. That would be a lot of poems, but a lot of them are. And the book, the collection is also made up of a few poems. I can think of maybe 3 poems that were revised during that period. So the seeds of them began elsewhere. At the one for sure at the Community of Writers
Mhm.
in 2017, I think. So there's one poem that but was completely transformed during that year-long period. So that's when they were written, they were or begun, and then mostly in between the time of writing them, there would be, I was in a little bit of rhythm where I would revise all of them before starting the next batch. So by the end of December 2021, I was putting the whole thing together. I knew I had something, and I sent it off to the first contest. Bravely sent it off. And I knew I was really onto something because it was a finalist in that contest. So
Hmm.
that was just a beautiful vote of confidence, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah. Um, what
So
other
yeah,
aspects
so
of
I'm
process?
curious,
Yeah.
maybe to take it towards looking a little bit at the book's themes, um, maybe describe for listeners, viewers, readers, what were the thematics of the minuses and how did those become, did those carry over into this new work? How did you discover this particular body of works thematic territory?
Okay. Yeah, I want to just say I really love this word territory because like your writing, my writing is very situated in place. It's place-based, environmentally based, ecologically based, and so territory, just like it. And interestingly, in the minuses, there's a poem with the title Territory of Men. So the minuses is very much negotiating, trying to figure out gendered relationships, and in particular, a woman's life and her relationship to the patriarchy with men, men familial, men in the family, men in the workplace, and men in romantic relationships. And at the center, perhaps, of that book is the uh, dissolution of a long time relationship. But as I say, and one of the characters maybe in this book is most of the book takes place in the Sonoran Desert.
Hmm.
Um, and so that where the book ends is this a kind of the figure, the character, the female character is sort of there's a sense of self-possession and confidence. She's destroyed, she's alone, but she's able to walk and walking in the desert. And there's some kind of freedom there, both freedom from attachment and a freedom to be in this landscape, this most unwelcoming landscape in a way, but nonetheless free. Um, and there are, she's a seeker. And so they're a spiritual seeker. And so all of those themes, that territory is where the book closes. And that figure, like I said, is still walking. And it's really about being a woman in the world, walking through the world. The poems in The Long Now Conditions Permit. Still a seeker, still negotiating the patriarchy, but maybe the themes of feminism and ecology are coming together more powerfully in The Long Now Conditions Permit and maybe more foregrounded. They were alive in the first collection, the minuses, but they're definitely pronounced here. And they're pronounced in two ways. One is the theme of or subject matter of that which is extractive,
Hmm.
especially environmental issues. So the extraction of resources from Earth, the extraction of resources from animals and animal life, and the ways that that parallels that treatment, that consciousness or lack thereof, parallels the treatment of women in society. Women are also seen as resources, often that which is extracted from. Um, so that's how that all comes together, and maybe the eco-feminist quality is more strong, more pronounced in the poems of The Long Now, Conditions Permit. That's probably because I got clearer on,
Mm,
got, got the romantic relationship out of the way and got clear on the woman walking and what it means to walk through how, what it means for a woman to walk through her own life
mhm, mhm.
and the perils of that,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm so interested in this extractive mindset, which, I see, not only in sort of that gender dynamic, but also, within myself, even as a poet, going out into a landscape and am I going to go and mine this landscape for some imagery, right? Am I going to use this to my purposes, or am I going to let it speak and have a dialogue?
That's
Um,
right.
and so I find that very powerful in this
Hmm.
book and this work.
Thank you. Yeah, that's beautiful what you just said. And I think like minds, I'm with you, even though there is a seeking, a spiritual seeking. That's a verticality within the poems. The landscape, I consider it's more a horizontal engagement, right? We're in it, and I'm just a part of it. And what am I out grasping, which is also a spiritual concept, right? Or am I receptive, palms open, sitting? And so we're like minds there. I let much of my process, if we're getting down to really close to the nub of how language and diction, all of those choices, that comes to me. Um, and it's rare that I would uh, go outward in a willfulness. There's
Mhm,
outward reaching, but really it's upward reaching, much like what's happening on the cover, right?
mhm,
There's upward reaching for goddess, for God,
mhm,
for that, yeah,
mhm.
that element.
Yeah. I have a question, but I want maybe for folks to hear some of this work. So, do you have a poem that you
Okay,
might read to
yeah,
give folks a taste of what we're talking about?
yeah. I thought I would start with a woman walking in summertime on the beach at sunset. All day, she has waited all day for it to be okay to go for a walk. Those who stare from their studied chairs, she does not want to be afraid of their gaze, nor her gender and dress flare conferring a rescuer's role. Let them think what they will. Her frock, the flock in open air suggested. The ending of light at the outlet, gulls gather. When someone approaches, the gray winged lift out of reach, their shadows a Sherian. One gull mews close, wanting what she supposes she does not have. Broken foot of this gull, broken wing of that gull, mica sand and opalescent mussel shell, unplumbable blue between wayfaring clouds, wherever assails salt wind, a tri-skip in a stone's throw, sees radiant taxiing, her longing to go out. Water's obedience articulates grains, tiny oppressions, being undersized for their trying. The light does not long persist. The ending of light at the outlet gulls gather. Glaucus, the feathers they molt. Thank you. Thank you.
Um, I don't want to speak because I feel like I'm ruining the
Oh,
beautiful conjuring. Um, but since this is an interview, we'll go on.
okay.
I am so intrigued by how the stance, right? This eco-poetics, this feminist stance, if you can call it a stance, maybe that's too hard of a word. Um, but that sensitivity and that approach
Hmm,
enters into these poems in a way that undercuts conventions, I guess is how I would describe it. So
hmm,
syntactically, things don't complete. It's not adhering to sentence structure, right?
mhm,
It's not
mhm.
adhering to the prescribed modes of language. So I know I didn't prompt you on this particular aspect, but do you have any thoughts on that relationship between that sort of philosophy that is important to this work and the poetics that you chose to or that chose you in this work?
Yeah, what a question. Let's see if I can take a couple of positions. I would say position, maybe not stance. So, and the position changes depending on the figure's engagement with the world. And so there's the positionality or being positioned, located in the landscape, and then there's the responsiveness. This is kind of what we were talking about before, right? Where it's not outward, it's waiting and allowing for things to come. So, and that is very much based in the spiritual practice I do, the meditative and spiritual practice I do, which is based in Kashmiri Shaivism, so Shiva. Um, and Shiva is the known as the Hindu god of creation and destruction, so perfect for poetry, really. Um, and but also there's Saraswati, who is the goddess of music and art and writing. So they both and their energies, and also, if I'm honest, Ganesha, right? Because Ganesha is the remover of obstacles. So grasping is a kind of obstacle to our ability to be receptive to wherever we find ourselves and with whom we find ourselves. So those 3 points um, inform the inform the writing, and it's mysterious in a way to me how they inform. Like I just explained it to you, but then there's the actual words that come and the syntax, as you pointed out, the order they come in. Um, and sometimes the poem, there might be a kind of density around, literally lots of words around what, and they somehow dissolve and slough away, and I'm looking for feeling my way to an essence, and I think that might be part of why the syntax is sometimes torqued, because even if it's kind of is like, I'm not sure what that is, it points to something. It points to the essence of a feeling. And I am not so much interested in telling a story as that trying to offer and enact an experience. So not imitate it, not reproduce it, but enact it in words on the page, just to the extent that that is even possible.
Mhm.
But that's
Yeah.
how I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, which is a sort of explanation for why these poems feel so immediate, right? And even on a second or third read, you feel that it's there's a freshness, there's a sort of um well, again, it's the lack of adherence to those external forms, right? The fidelity to the archetypal energy or that position as you're describing it that feels important and different, right? Again, different than what readers are probably used to in that narrative sense or in more conventional modes of poetry. So I think that it's something to really celebrate and hard
Ah,
to talk
thank
about, but
you.
yeah, I think such a
Maybe,
strength.
I just had this idea of just showing, and then I'm looking, when I'm thinking about enacting, let's see if I can find, the poet doesn't know where poems are in her book. There it is. So I don't know if you can kind of see, right, how the
Yes.
shape of the poem goes in and out. And like right now, oh, that seems so obvious. It's in and out, it's the water. But I had no idea. It just was like I kept fiddling with this poem on the page. So it comes alive in the shape also, not only in diction and syntax, but the shape too is part of what helps it come alive. And there's also a kind of internal external movement that's happening, right? Internal to the figure, and then the external world keeps coming in to her space, and so or what she hopes will be her space.
Mhm.
She keeps getting interrupted while she's trying to just take a walk. Um, we're familiar with this phenomenon. Yeah, so just you, I think you said the word form, and that's what triggered that uh, or that thought, is all of that comes together for me. I'm very interested in at the level of the word choice, diction, and getting the sound, ringing the right bells with the sound choice and nuance. And then the syntax, I want some kind of torsion because often that's part of the subject matter.
Mhm.
Is this the a kind of torsion, a kind of tension, and then the shape of the
Mhm.
poem on the page.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. And it just maybe to take this like one step further,
Good.
in terms of how, how conventional poetry, we have certain expectations. We come to the page with, with some of those expectations. Um, what we're describing, this sort of formal originality and adherence to other energies, doesn't come off as a gimmick, right? It comes off as some kind of other accuracy, I guess is the way I would describe it. It's more accurate to experience, instead of being accurate to a language structure, right? So I feel it's aligned with that experiential piece.
Wow,
Um,
beautiful. I love that. I think also you'll relate to this too. The cognitive function that's alive in the poems is meditative. There's not a thought process. So, the meditative position or cognitive function is receptive, right? And so that maybe I'm just thinking of this now. And I don't have it fully articulated yet in my cognitive function, but it is partly that. There's not thinking going on. There's experience going on, even the experience of what's unfolding through meditation. So it's that which is unfolding in the physical realm, in the psychological, emotional, and cognitive realms.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
cool. Thank you for helping me get there.
I
Yay.
could spend a long time in this deep end. Um,
Bless you. Thank you so much for your attention. Wow. What a gift.
um, I mean, this book is just full of things that I want to unpack. So,
Hmm.
um, maybe let's talk about some of so there's the figure. There are also numerous animals that appear throughout the collection. I'm someone who's, as you know, really attuned to all the creatures that show up in my yard and in the places that I walk and where I live. So I'm just curious if you might talk a little bit about, the owl in your spine and the red-tailed hawks that are messengers. What do these, more than human presences help you articulate? Maybe that's the question.
Well, birds, right? Both their birds are extreme. We haven't gotten there quite yet, but birds, until right in this moment, birds are very important um, to the poems, and that because, yeah, hmm, because they have a freedom that
Mm,
this figure does not have,
mm,
and is, seeks with all of her heart and soul
mm,
that kind of movement. Um, and particularly the movement to fly in the sky. It's just that's just something that is a very powerful wish for the various. It's not one woman, but there is one central figure. They all want that kind of freedom.
mhm, mhm,
So birds are incredibly important, as sort of as expressions of that freedom, that the figure, the those who are more earthbound, can live through either even vicariously, even if it's not, they can't fly, but what approximates flight in their own, and walking is what approximates the flight,
mm,
the freedom to walk,
mm,
even though it's often interrupted or under threat,
mm,
right? The figure who's walking is often, it's every time, she goes out into the world, something one has to be aware, right?
mhm,
So she carries with her that awareness, but the awareness is not only for that which is threatening, but that which is um, a kind of beauty in the world, the freedom, the magic, of the leaves changing, or seeing a deer, or yes, this red-tailed hawk that is soaring. They're soaring birds, so is soaring overhead. And the owl figure, the owl being moves through the poems. I think it's three different times, and visits the figure when her friend dies, and in a way becomes her friend,
mm,
who has died, and then lives in her spine. That kind of has been taken into her body in such a way that she lives there. And later they're outside again, and there's two of them calling to each other in response. So there's a sense of reconnection,
mm,
and the ultimate remedy to grief and loneliness is having one's partner there, right? And owls, that takes place as the book moves towards spring, and owls pair up and begin their mating and so on in late winter. So that's so in a way, there's some geeky sciencey and ornithology in the book
mhm,
where I'm doing those, and you might have, as somebody who's also geeky science kind of gal, may also notice those things, that it moves through life cycles, and the birds are doing the thing that they would do in the season, and so there's some adherence, and the certain life cycle of plants. Flora is also adhering to seasons. And so not maybe surrealism so much is alive in this book, but the actual things that happen to life and nature. Yeah.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and again, it's a kind of fidelity, both to that, the metaphoric possibility, right? That presents itself through experiencing those presences, but also, as you point out, a deep accuracy to the science of it, right? And I came across this quote from Denise Levertov that I believe it was Robert Hass who wrote it somewhere. Anyway,
Mm,
the quote is, I hope I'm going to say this correctly, accuracy is always the gateway to mystery.
mm,
And I feel that is so true in again, I don't want to say using science, but finding a kind of fidelity to the scientific truth,
Mm,
and to the experience and to the metaphor. It can do all of those things.
yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. That's, then the other animals, I'm a kind of an avid reader and I really like National Geographic. And the book also, because of the time period it was written in, is under the influence of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we all, certainly, I learned a ton about science. I had no idea that there's a poem, and maybe I will read that one, The Window, about what happens to horseshoe crabs, our dependence on horseshoe crabs and their blue blood.
Mm.
Um, and the still what's happening, the African fauna, it's just phenomenal, right? Giraffes and elephants and oh God, it's just amazing. And elephants in particular, these majestic, and they have a matriarchal society, which is partly why they're important to me. And they have incredible memories and allegiances to them, to the family. All of those aspects, how they live their lives, is just really special and magical and beautiful. And they're still being poached.
Mm.
They're still being poached. You know, like some 30,000 a year, and who knows what that figure is now. I haven't looked recently, but so, and tigers are still being killed for medicine that's no stronger than aspirin. Like, can't you just take aspirin, and just these things, that's that extractive quality that I'm really wanting to talk about, is that one of the things that I think I love poems that teach me things,
Mhm.
um, and that have accuracy of science, and so I guess I want to write those too, that they're giving information as well as experience. And I have some idea, that if these injustices are talked up in poems, anyone who reads them may stop and think about it. Or let me know more about lions and elephants and what's happening to them, um, what's happening to horseshoe crabs and seahorses, and on we go. So that's why there are endnotes in the book to talk up some of these things that are happening that we don't know about. The use of PFAS, plastics,
Mhm.
and the way it's seeping into our blood streams and affecting, our endocrine systems and our reproductive systems. Like
Mhm.
this is a this is something that doesn't now it's being spoken about more, and there's a lot of science that backs it up, and most people know PFAS, have heard it. But even when I was writing these poems, which was just 6 years ago, right? That people didn't know. Well, some people knew, but we weren't talking about it very much, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the history of some things, but the science is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Would you
Yeah.
read actually the horseshoe crab image was one that really popped for me,
Yeah.
as well. Would you like to read that poem?
Sure. Okay. So let's see. I'll try to make sure you can hear me. Turn this way this time. Window. This is a window. The horseshoe crab, milked for its blue blood amoebocytes, detectives of deadly bacterial contaminants in pharmaceuticals designed to enter the human bloodstream. This is a window, the Black Hills, the six grandfathers called by the Lakota Sioux earth, sky, and four directions. This is a window. Every year, pharmaceutical companies round up 500,000 Atlantic horseshoe crabs, bleed them, return them to the ocean, after which many will die. Limulus, Polyphemus. This is a window. The hammer chisel of Mount Rushmore is a story of desecration. This is a window, earth in motion and not at rest. This is a window. Tomorrow may come without her. One never knows who is staying. This is a window. Puerto Lopez in open fish crates, the flat eyes of dead mackerel stare straight through until frigates and pelicans steal for their future this food. Scomber japonicus, Fregata magnificens, Pelicanus occidentalis. This is a window. Everyone is a short story writer. In our phone conversation, N points outward at me, sticks out her tongue. This is a window. In the dream after the phone call, the cat, already dead of cancer, is alive behind a closed door, under the bed, in a room where I keep her to keep her safe, where I deliver food she can no longer eat. The air, scented denial. I know the friendship I wish to save is already dead. Felis catus. This is a window. Some 30,000 African elephants still killed by poachers each year. Loxodonta. You are the poacher. I am the poacher. We are the poachers, the poached. You and I are elephants. We are the animals, all the animals, earth and sky.
Mm. Chills. Um, yeah, well, yeah, and any one of those um images, lines, pieces of the poem, the mosaic that they create is so sort of scintillating, right? It's almost to me, in first reading, overwhelming to take in, all that reflection. But over time, it's like with the crab um, blood image, it really has a powerful effect, right? So there's the effect of the poem, sort of in receiving it in this sort of overwhelming intake. And then there are the bits and pieces that kind of stay in the system. So I really
Wow.
appreciate the way that that works for me as a reader. Um, so so immediacy, right? We've talked about the immediacy and the experiential aspect, the sort of phenomenology behind these poems. I wanted to talk a little bit about the title and the work's relationship to temporality.
Okay.
So the long now conditions permit. It suggests a sort of extended present moment where past harms and present harms are continuing, they're
Mhm.
persisting. In her blurb, Claudia Keelan notes that trauma and its reconciliation continuously pass the baton in the work. Um, Given that, how would you describe this book's relationship to time and trauma? And what does the long now mean in terms of how we witness and write about ongoing harm?
Hmm. Yeah, an important, really important question. Let me just take a moment Um, I want to recognize the anaphora of the poem, The Window, This is a Window, is related to a prayer that the White Mountain Apache healer Silas John Edwards recited. And so he just that it's making me think, and the historical element within that poem, right? The historical element within the scientific or pharmaceutical um, practices, right, to round up horseshoe crabs. This has been going on for a long time. So there's this historical element, the nature of the historical element of Mount Rushmore, which was a sacred place to the Lakota Sioux. And suddenly, not many people, or not suddenly, but over time, not many people know about that, but we know about Mount Rushmore, right? So the temporality in the title also refers to that, this continuum, the ongoing nature of knowledge, of our experience, right? This is one place that has implications, many, many different implications. I'm thinking about Rushmore there. Okay, so there's that aspect. The long now also it has a spiritual has spiritual implications, right? Because it's always now. It's always now. And it's never now. In
Mm.
a way, it's an impossible thing, but it's always now. So there's that quality to it. And then there is the conditions of now. What creates the now we are living? So in this book, one of the nows is the COVID-19 pandemic, right? One of the nows are the personal and intimate losses within several female figures' lives. So the losses, intimate losses that are take place in women's lives: loss of freedom, loss of autonomy, loss of ability to move through physical space, loss of female friends. That's a theme that moves through these books, and it's alive in the windows too. Um, the figure N, right? They're having a disagreement, and the loss of the cat to the other female friend. Um, and then there's also the loss of women's lives.
Mm.
So loss in women's lives, loss of women's lives. And so it's really there now.
Mm.
And they are the animals. They are the women and they are the animals. They are the resource that's getting used up, burned out,
Mm.
being is missing um, or murdered
Mm.
in these poems.
Mhm. Mm.
Yeah, and the conditions within patriarchal society that perpetuates these conditions.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so the poems are wanting to point to it, confront it, uh, talk it up, as I said before, and see if we can kind of face it together. Okay, so that's some of the map of time. Let me take a moment and see if there's some other angle we can get to. Um, the other way that time is temporality is alive is the in the movement of the poems. In maybe a way that's a bit more explicit, which is the poem, they move through time, through the seasons of a year, basically. Um, and so it's part of the actual structure within each poem and within each section. And there are four sections, four seasons, if you will, in the book. Yeah. So temporality, time comes forward there too. This is a more conceptual, but there's the way that the now, that the past, what has transpired is a fold within now.
Mhm.
And there are questions about um, whether or not for certain people there is a future, for certain species, there is a future, and to what extent are we living the future right now? This is a bit more conceptual, but those concepts are also informing the temporality within the poems.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Again, the poems, the work is pushing back on a conventional view of time, for
Yeah,
a purpose
that's right.
again, situating us and opening up the field, opening up the perception to, like you're saying, the conditions, which I also appreciate that this isn't finger pointing, we're all complicit. And I really appreciate that as well within, the scope of what we just uh,
Mm,
talked about.
yeah. More circular than linear, right? And repetition, part of the one of the like rhetorical devices, if we want to speak about that, it's not exactly like I planned it that way, but now to speak about it a bit, that the repetition of trauma trauma is repetitious. It comes back. Sometimes we feel free of it. Sometimes it's there and we don't understand why. It's just the nature of our abilities to metabolize trauma, both intimate personal trauma and societal trauma, right? So it's more cyclical. It's more circular. It can feel like a swirl rather than a something that's on a timeline, that's something that's linearity. And the repetition, this is a window, is occurring. There's lots of repetition that's prepositionally driven that tries to get at that too,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
quality. Yeah.
Well, speaking of time, I feel like I could probably have another like 3 hours
Yeah.
unpacking everything
Yeah. We
beautiful
have,
about this book. So I want to
thank you.
encourage everyone to go out and buy a copy of the book. Do you want to hold it up? Because the cover is
Yeah,
really stunning.
it is. There it is. Yeah. So this photograph is by Matsuhiko Kurosawa, Japanese photographer living in Tokyo. And I got really lucky and found this on Facebook.
Oh,
Thank you,
there is a
Facebook.
purpose to
There is
Facebook,
a purpose.
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I, when I saw it, I was like, and even after, if there were some doubts or, covers are a thing for a poet, right? Or for any author, just like, what's it going to be? And is this, is there a quality of ringing the bell with the right tone? I had to keep feeling that. And so, yeah. And luckily the publisher, the University of Nevada Press is the publisher of the book, really liked it and thought it was one of their stronger covers. So, I mean, that helped me too. Then no more second guessing,
Mhm.
even though, second guessing takes a while to quiet down.
Yeah. Of course. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's stunning. And, I've heard a lot of horror stories about covers that didn't go the way the author wanted it to. So, congratulations on that
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's a thing. The cover is a thing. Having been through this now a few times, I think it's just a thing that we as authors kind of have to steel ourselves for and be ready for. And it's difficult to find the visual
Mm.
language for the words. It seems like, well, but there's so many visuals within the poems. But when we're trying to bring that into something that's tangible, I think that just becomes quite difficult, right? The poems, at least for me, live in my head and they're all connected and they're streaming there in a funny way. They have their position. And then they start to take shape on a page in a book that has a different shape and form, and I don't understand them anymore.
Hmm.
You know, it's so spatially oriented for me, all of it. So I think it's just kind of thing.
Yeah.
We'll just have to, we just have to stick it out.
Yes.
It's part of our process, poets.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah,
Well, I'm glad that had such a good outcome.
me too.
Uh,
I got lucky. I feel lucky.
so, how can people find you if you want to be found?
I
And
do. Definitely
yeah,
find me,
yeah, let
people.
us know.
Find me, people. My website, jamimacarty.com, and there's a way to contact me there that comes right to my Gmail. And I welcome anybody. Reach out. I'd love to be in conversation about writing and editing and reviewing and everything that is surrounds reading and making books, reading and writing books. I really love that conversation, and I'm always looking for it to expand. So I'm really grateful to you, Radha, for this invitation and a chance to for us to meet and talk. Yeah, and the book. There's a link to the book there right on the landing page, the home page, or the University of Nevada Press. It won the Test Site Poetry Prize. So if you put those two together, or the title, The Long Now, Conditions Permit, and my name, it should take you right there. And if I may, just a plug that it helps me as an author the most if you purchase the book directly from the publisher. I know most folks who buy our books really want to know how to help us most. And of course, buying our books is the best of all supports any author can receive, but buying it directly from the publisher helps both the author and the publisher the most. Of course, you're free to do what feels right for you and what can work for you, but if I can put in a plug for all poets, especially for book purchasers to buy directly from the poet. Signed copies could be yours if you wish, by contacting the poet directly or by and then or purchase from the publisher. Yeah,
Yeah, great.
thanks.
Yeah, and thank you for clarifying that because I think it's a question we have, or folks have
Yeah,
who aren't,
yeah,
sort of behind the scenes, and maybe they've heard that, oh, it's better to, purchase from big retailer and leave
yeah,
a review at big retailer.
yeah.
But no, in fact,
That
small
helps too.
presses
Yeah.
are really the thing in poetry.
Yeah, it really is. It's what helps us most and most directly. But that's not to say that buying from the big retailer and leaving a review there, which is about the only way I think you can leave a review there, also helpful. So if that's better for whoever is buying the book and that whoever is so called to leave a review also many poetry blessings will come your way if you are such that if you are that person. Yes, yeah, so it all comes together.
Yes.
So yeah, whatever. I think we have to, we're always negotiating, right? What's best for us, and then where does that intersect with what's also of most support to the artist, to the writer and publisher? And so there is a sweet spot there, and we all have to find that for ourselves, I think. So it's really important. We don't get to talk about this very much, right? It's not just buy my book. It's that buying somebody's book, buying my collection of poetry, buying your collection of poetry, Radha, has real world effects on our lives as writers. I'm not sure if everybody really knows that.
Yeah.
It really does. It really, really does. And you get to be part of the village that congregates around the poems. we know about you. And in many cases, we know you. And we are eternally grateful for your support. So it's really that. It's really, for me, a feeling of community that's of some faces that I know and names that I know, and then also new people to the community, to the village, right? Because we can't do this without the villagers.
Hmm.
It just
Hmm.
doesn't happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Without one another, like I consider myself part of your village and you're in mine, whether you like it or not. But hopefully you like it.
Please.
Um,
Yeah.
and whoever listens, right? We're
Yeah.
inviting whoever joins us here
Yeah.
gets to be part of our village and
Yeah.
in conversation with us too, right? And outward, these circles radiate. That's what I'm
Absolutely.
after. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Beautifully, beautifully illustrated. And I couldn't agree
Yay.
more.
Yay. Thank
Well,
you.
Jamie, thank you so much for spending
Thank
this
you so
time
much.
with me today and for giving everybody, some insights into the book. And again, I just want to really encourage everyone to go and get a copy as soon as you can.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Radha. It was a real pleasure. Mwah.
You're welcome.